Shrek. He has layers. On the face of it, he's an angry ogre just wanting to be left alone in his swamp, but when you think about it, he's the greatest person to have ever lived. And I say lived because, as it turns out, he might have been based on a real historical figure. Now I know what you're thinking. No man could possibly have the kind of sex appeal Shrek does. And that's true, but they can still be ogreish. This is Maurice Tillet, a professional wrestler known as the French Angel. In the 1940s, he was among the sport's biggest stars, in part thanks to his monstrous appearance. As professional wrestling only really took off after he retired, Tillet was overshadowed by more recent stars. I'm still not sure why professional wrestling did take off. It's a ridiculous waste of time, but that's beside the point. This is the story of Maurice Tillet, the man who may have been the inspiration for Shrek. In 1903, Maurice Tillet was born somewhere in the Ural Mountains, a vast Russian mountain range. His parents were French nationals, drawn to Russia for work. The father was an engineer and the mother was a teacher, giving Maurice a middle-class upbringing. They were a normal family in every respect. But the following decade saw revolution and civil war break out in Russia. The middle class were now targets of rebel violence, causing the Tillet family to move back to France. Maurice was still a normal-looking boy, and would remain this way into adulthood. As an adult, he began to transform. His hands, feet and head seemed to be swelling to a greater size by the day. The swelling soon stopped, but his body never returned to normal size, leaving him like this forever. Doctors diagnosed him with a rare disorder caused by excess growth hormone. This is different to gigantism, which occurs in childhood, causing people to grow in height. As Maurice was already an adult on developing the condition, he never grew taller than 5'9". The whole thing was a mess, so for a new start he joined the Navy, because France really has one. Apparently they have an army as well. After serving for a while, he met a professional wrestler from Lithuania, and was inspired to give it a go himself. It wasn't long before he was a massive draw, with his monstrous features and massive frame. For spectators, it was like seeing a man fighting with a real-life monster. Tillet gained fame in North America, being advertised as superhuman, and unbeatable by any normal human. He performed all over the world, and was far more hairy than a human should be. Eventually he secured the AWA World Heavyweight Champion belt, perhaps the only belt that could fit around his body. Seeing this success, other people with the same genetic disorder also became wrestlers. They even copied his name. There was the Polish Angel, the Irish Angel, the Canadian Angel, the Swedish Angel, and even the Super Swedish Angel. The latter was Carl Johansson, who went on to become a B-movie actor, playing such roles as Bold Sir Guy, Mr. Curry, and Inspector Daniel Clay. He was easily the most successful angel wrestler, even more than Tillet. Like so many with his disorder, Tillet eventually suffered health problems and retired from the sport in 1953. Within 2 years he was dead. Few today are even aware of Maurice Tillet, but he led a genuinely interesting life. He could speak several languages and travelled the world. His signature move was the bear hug, and another of his ring names was the ugliest man in the world. It was World War II that forced him to move to America. While there, he was examined by Harvard biologists, who declared him the closest living creature to Neanderthal man. His head was twice the size of other men, and he possessed abnormal strength. Tillet would sometimes demonstrate his strength by pulling cars by himself. He also lived longer than most with his condition, dying at age 50. But most interesting of all is that Shrek might be based on him. DreamWorks have never revealed the inspiration for Shrek. But look at him, he's White Shrek. He just is. Maurice Tillet is not the only man said to have been inspiration for an animated character. Popeye was created in 1929 by Elsie Seeger, born and raised in Chester, Illinois. As the character went mainstream, Chester locals had a good idea what inspired it. According to them, it was based on a local man by the name of Frank Fiegel. Fiegel was a toothless pipe smoker known for fighting and being fearless. Standing just 5'11" and of slight build, he was considered among the strongest and toughest men around. After a few beers, he was ready to fight anyone. Maybe this was changed to spinach as to not encourage young people to drink, which it would have. In fact, when Popeye cartoons went mainstream, spinach sales went up almost 33%. Frank Fiegel died in 1947. On his gravestone is simply an engraving of Popeye. Another cartoon character based on a real historical figure is Tintin. Tintin, the best thing to come out of Belgium since pornography. First appearing in 1929, he's a boy reporter, travelling the world and writing of his adventures. Well, it turns out he was based on a real-life Danish boy. In 1928, 15-year-old Paul Holt left on a journey that would take him around the world in just 44 days. Financed by a newspaper, the journey took him to China, the Soviet Union, Japan, and Canada, among other countries. On returning to Denmark, he was greeted by a massive cheering crowd, and soon wrote a book detailing the experience. In it he told of encounters with Native American tribes, Japanese military officers, and other disparate cultures. It's universally accepted that this boy was the basis for Tintin. It's also known that another character, the evil Colonel Sponce, was based on the author's younger brother, a soldier who shaved his head to look more intimidating. Strangely, the original purpose of Tintin was to serve as anti-communist propaganda. Its creator worked for a newspaper literally owned by a fascist, who kept a signed photo of Mussolini, so Tintin was only allowed to be published if it showed a clear anti-communist message, and so the first story was published, Tintin in the Land of the Soviets. So there you have it, the origin story of Tintin, and Popeye, and Shrek, and Jesus, and Justin Trudeau, and the Queen of Denmark, and your face.